Hi there! Well, today's video is going to be a review of the MAC Matchmaster Concealer. I did purchase mine directly from the MAC store. It's available in 12 shades. There are 3.5 grams of product at $21. I also wanted to do a bit of a comparison in this video because I know a lot of you have been left a little bit disappointed by the Clay de Peau concealer, which is what I'm going to be comparing this to. I was really hoping when I bought this product that it might be an alternative to that at a much better price point. So I'm going to let you know my thoughts on that and give you a little bit of a side-by-side comparison and let you know how that works out. So let's go ahead and get started. Just to give you a little bit of shade reference, I did choose the shade 1.5. It is available in 12 shades and I found that this was a perfect match for my skin tone. I am normally a MAC NW20 and I also use the MAC Mineralized Skin Finish Natural in light medium. I believe now it's called Light Plus. So hopefully that gives you a better idea of the type of shade range that I am in. Just to get right to the point for you, I have been very impressed with this concealer from the first time that I used it. I'm going to go over all of the reasons that I love it, starting with the format. I love a stick concealer. This makes it so convenient to apply, and a great thing about this particular concealer is that it doesn't require any special brushes or blending. I apply this directly from the tube to the inner corners of my eye area and then just tap it out with my ring finger. I'm also going to show you a before and after picture just to show you how this product works. I would say it does not really have a brightening effect to it, but it does conceal very nicely. It is not a maximum coverage concealer, but it's certainly not light coverage. I would say it's somewhere between medium to full. I am getting ample coverage, so don't let me get you wrong here. I am getting very ample coverage from this. It's just not quite as pigmented as some other products that I've used. This is a very creamy formula, but it's not overly creamy. Sometimes I've tried other products that they are so creamy that immediately they start to settle into lines and they will crease and it makes it very obvious. This has a very natural appearance. It's creamy enough to not accentuate any lines or dry patches under my eyes, but it has a dry enough formula that it sets up nicely on its own in a short amount of time. So you're really getting the perfect combination. This is such a fantastic formula. Another thing that I wanted to mention is that this doesn't require any special prep or powder concealing, powder setting afterwards. So even if I have very dry patches underneath my eyes, which has been happening a lot more often lately, I don't have to do any special hydration. Some days I've even forgotten to hydrate under my eye area and this works just as well. I've also found that this product works very well with other products. So specifically what I have tried it with is the Bobbi Brown Corrector. I had a couple of days where my inner corners of my eyes were very, very dark due to allergies. So I did a little bit of correcting beforehand and this went over the top of that beautifully. It really did a great job. They worked so well together. I was very impressed with the look of that. I would say the coverage of this on its own is somewhere between medium and full. It's definitely not a light coverage, but it's not quite as full coverage as I would like for it to be, but it is definitely adequate. There is no need really for an everyday concealer to be more full coverage than this or more of a coverage than this is. I think this is really ample for every day. And I am happy to just use a little bit of my Bobbi Brown Corrector on those days when I have very dark circles. And that's only been needed a couple of times. So I really do think that this is probably the perfect formula and pigmentation. You don't need to set this with any sort of special setting powder, but I also have found that it works really well with my MAC Mineralized Skin Finish Natural. I will take a little bit of this and just sort of clean up my eye area a little bit and set it if I know I'm going to be having a very long day where I really want my makeup to hold up. But I have also found that this doesn't really seem to break down during the day, even when I don't do that. This holds up very well. I never find that it settles. It doesn't take a lot of product, but even if I build it up a little bit more, I'm still not really seeing that creasing or any noticeable settling into my lines. It's just a really great formula. So let's go ahead and talk about a few comparisons between the Clay de Peau concealer and the Matchmaster. First of all, they are both in stick form, so they are both equally convenient. One thing that I did notice that was a little bit different about the Matchmaster is you can see that it's shaped a little bit more flat on top, whereas the Clay de Peau is a little bit more of a dome shape. This does make the Clay de Peau a little bit easier to apply. My eyes are somewhat deep set, so in this orbital socket area, you can really feel the bones in that area. So this I do have a little bit of a hard time sort of getting into that area, but what I will do is just take my ring finger and tap on here and then go in, and that really kind of accesses that area a little bit more easily for me, but it's certainly not something that's that big of a deal. The other thing about the Clé de Peau concealer is that this is a much drier formula, and this is a lot creamier. So being a dry formula, this really grabs onto your darkly pigmented areas and covers them very easily without any sort of setting powder, but it also, as I've discovered, really accentuates dry spots, especially under the eyes. This was something that was very frustrating for me using this product because I absolutely love the coverage of it, but it required so much prep work to my under eye area, especially where I'm getting these dry patches at the innermost corners. I get a lot of scaliness, and this was just so difficult to work with. I would really have to prep that area, use a lot of hydration, and that was still no guarantee that it was going to work. It was still going to accentuate that, but it doesn't settle into lines and wrinkles either. Now that is somewhat debatable. I know some people have had experiences where they say this just does not work well at all for their under eye area, so just keep that in mind. With the Matchmaster concealer, you are not getting quite as pigmented of coverage, but it is a much more hydrating formula. So as I mentioned before when I was talking about this, you really don't have to do any special prep to the eye area. You can just apply this directly without even moisturizing, or I find that I don't need to moisturize, and you're getting a really nice coverage that's not going to accentuate any of the flaws in that area. Of course, the other thing is the price point. I think the Clé de Peau is about $70 and this is $21. So that is a significant price difference. We're talking about almost $50 there. And I feel like for me, the Matchmaster is a much better formulation. I really love how densely pigmented the Clé de Peau is, but it's not so far and away better that I don't find the Matchmaster to be completely adequate for all of my everyday concealing needs. I intend to use up the Clé de Peau concealer. I do enjoy it, especially for concealing spots around my face, but I don't think it's something that I'm going to use under my eye, in my under eye area any longer now that I have the Matchmaster. I am completely satisfied with this, more than satisfied. I really, really love it, and I can't really come up with any cons for you about it, other than maybe what I mentioned about it being a little flat, so a little awkward to apply. But again, that is something that's so easy to get around, and that might be something that's just specific to the way that my eyes are a little bit more deep set, so I wouldn't let that discourage you from buying it. So overall, I definitely give the MAC Matchmaster Concealer a Le Beauty Bag Bravo. This is an amazing product, especially if you are someone that really wanted to love the Clé de Peau concealer and were left a little bit disappointed, especially about the price point. I would really encourage you to go to a MAC counter or store and get a shade match and see if you aren't a little bit happier with a Matchmaster. Like I mentioned in the beginning, from the first time I used it, I knew that this was going to be just a much better product, a much better formula, and it's just a pleasure to work with. It doesn't require anything special, so I've really been enjoying it. It's just really sped up my concealing routine and made things a lot simpler. So that is it. I hope that you found this review and comparison helpful. I thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you very soon. Bye-bye.